Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and final messenger. As to what follows, family, friends, foes, haters, and hatettes, welcome back to the features. I greet you all in peace and love, with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. So, before we begin, just give me the thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up if you can hear me. A like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. As you all know, we have a lot of haters up in here. And also, on the features now, we do now have memberships. So for those of you, especially for my long time supporters, I first of all I want to thank you, of course, for your support and your love and all that's the support that you show, especially with the topics that we cover here on the features. And you can now become members. And inshallah, in the future, in the near future, I will have exclusive content for members only and Patreons. These type of videos that get me kicked off of YouTube and stuff. Right? I'll put it on my membership only videos and my Patreon videos, so you can see for yourself. Why the features is a very hated hated channel. Why these guys all these guys, all your so-called da'is, pretending to make dawah, but really all they doing is confusing the people for their biscuits and stuff. And then when I go after them, it cuts into their biscuits, so they try to cut me off of YouTube. And then you will see why, inshallah. Right? So thanks for your support. Thanks for your love. And inshallah, let's get right into it. So this morning I got a message from a brother, okay, and he sent me this message from Sheikh Salih Fawzan, Hafizullah, and he was basically giving the he was asked a question about grave worshippers, and the Sheikh rightfully said that these people are mushrikun, and the people that worship the graves are mushrikun, and anybody who defends them is like them. Right, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, he said that. And then me and the brother, we started getting in a conversation about about all these du'at on YouTube, your YouTubian callers, your YouTubian callers to Islam on the internet and whatnot, and how they now are so bold and forward that they are actually dissing the Imam, Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, for pointing this out, that, grave worship is actually shirk, right? And they're saying that this is some sort of like a new way or new something or the other, whatnot, right? So I'm not going to because, like your brother, he doesn't really like to get into the Dawah circle so much, right? But I want to make my position clear first, and then I'm going to get into the meat of what I want to talk about concerning this specific topic, all right, about the grave worshiping Muslims, right? So my personal stance on that is that of course it's shirk, like right? And I'm just going to read you some hadith. So the first one is from it's muttafaqun alayh, and it's from muttafaqun alayh, Bukhari, Muslim, where Aisha radiyallahu anha said that Salama radiallahu anha mentioned the Prophet sallam regarding a church she had seen in the land of Abyssinia, like Ethiopia, okay, which within the church, right, it had some pictures, right? So the Prophet sallam, he said, when there used to die a righteous man or servant from among them, they would build over his grave a place of worship. Okay, they will build over his grave a place of worship. Then they would make in it these pictures. They are the worst of creatures in the sight of Allah. Okay, and like I said, Bukhari, Muslim. This first hadith, right? The second hadith is again muttafaqun alayh, and the Prophet sallallahu Well, it's reported from Aisha radiallahu anha, who said, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was close to death, he would cover his face with a cloth, and when it became difficult for him to breathe, or he would uncover it once again. So this because of the fever, because he's covering his face with a wet cloth because of the fever, right? So whilst in this state, he said, the curse of Allah be upon the Jews and the Christians, because they took the graves of the prophets as places of worship. So the Prophet ﷺ, he's cursing the Jews and the Christians for taking the those places of worship, the graves of the righteous, as places of worship. Okay, this is the Prophet ﷺ talking about this. Okay, and then authentic hadith in Ahmed, okay, which was from Ibn Mas'ud, who said, the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, the most evil of people will be those people who are alive in the final hour, when the final hour reaches them, and those who take the graves of as places of worship, okay? Those who take the graves as places of worship, right? So this is from Ahmed and Abu Hatim in Sahih, and Albani in Tahdhir al-Sajid. He basically said it's Sahih. Okay, so that's my personal stance, okay? This is my personal stance, right? My stance is the Sunnah, okay? This is the Sunnah. I give you the Hadith, right? So that's what I believe, right? But I'm not going to go so much into the fiqh rulings and this and this and that and who said what. I'm going to talk about some incredible hypocrisy. Well, let me not call it hypocrisy, okay? Let me not call it hypocrisy. Let's just call it culturally standing, or staying on code with the culture when it comes to specifically South Asians and Arabs regarding this particular issue of grave worshippers and why they themselves support grave worshiping and don't make takfir of the grave worshiping people, right? Now, before I get into that, I'm going to read from a book. This book here is called Engaging Muslim Students in Public Schools. Now, this book is about, it's actually about a blueprint of how to tackle issues with Muslims in public schools and how you can approach the school boards and the Ministry of Education, particular in the States, right? This is the book I'm reading right now. Inshallah, I'm going to be finishing it in the next couple of days, and I'm going to do, because it's an amazing book, has a lot of amazing stuff in it, right? But the brother, his name is Michael Abraham, okay? His name is Michael Abraham, okay? And he is an educator. He's an academic educator. And this book, I don't want anybody to get it mixed up, because it's not a history book. It's a book about going to the Board of Education, how you can educate your children better in public schools. You understand? That's what this book is about. However, in tackling this subject, he has actually made this book geared towards non-Muslims, mostly the teachers and whatnot, and the Board of Education and whatnot. And he gives portions and sections of Islamic history in the West, okay? He's a convert from Syria, Brother Michael Abraham, right? So if you get a chance, get this book. It's very important. I'm going to be tackling this weekend, inshallah, right? But anyway, he has a part here where he's talking about converts and community in the 20th century, because he's going through the history, trying to explain it to non-Muslims. And this is what he said. He has a part in here about Timothy Drew and the Moorish Temple of America. Those of you who know who Timothy Drew is, he is also known as the Noble Drew Ali. Okay, so one of the first of these was a man named Timothy Drew, later known as Drew Ali, who founded what is called the Moorish Temple of America in 1913 in Newark, New Jersey. The word Moor was the was a name that Europeans in Spain, France, and Italy gave the Muslims living in Spain under Christian rule in Morocco. It originates from the Greek word mavro, and it means blackened. Drew taught that African Americans were originally Moorish descent, as a way for them to rediscover their roots, their African roots, and have racial pride in being black. This is also meant, according to Drew, that the original faith of African Americans was Islamic. Okay, so he's giving you some history about Noble Drew Ali. Okay, in the 1920s, Drew moved the temple to Chicago, where it expanded greatly. Congregations of the group would also start in the cities of Detroit, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. During this time, these cities had greatly increased in the number of African Americans, as many of them were migrating from southern states. Drew's movement had an appeal that some who were searching for a unique identity. Drew also had a positive message encouraging blacks to build themselves up to be respected and active citizens by contributed positively to society. Okay, so this is the part I want you guys to get. Members of Drew's movement adopted some practices that would be familiar to people from Muslim countries. Okay, this is what he's saying. Members of Drew's movement, okay, it's important, adopted some practice that would be familiar to people from Muslim countries. They wore head coverings such as kafiyas with an igal or a fez that is commonly worn by Islamic scholars in Egypt and Turkey, as well as robes that are similar to thobe or khamis. They would also change their names to Arabic and Islamic names, as Drew changed his name to Ali. However, okay, listen to this. The core of their practices, people from the Muslim world will find them to be heretical. Okay, the core of their practices from the Muslim world would find them to be heretical. For example, Drew gave himself the title of prophet and proclaimed himself to be one. Drew claimed that an Egyptian magician had given him a lost section of the Quran that only he had. This text came to be known as the Circle 7 Quran, and really it was a combination of writings from a Christian preacher in Ohio, another European book from the 17th century, and some writings by Drew himself. Okay, the idea of adding section to the Quran would seem shocking to Orthodox Muslims, as it goes against the core tenets of Islamic beliefs. Correct? Okay, I agree. But here we go. It is important to remember that in America, in the early 20th century, there was only relatively small number of Islamic books that were translated into English. Okay? There was only a small number of Islamic books translated into English. Even the English translations of the Quran that are most commonly accepted today had not been done yet. They didn't have an English translation of Quran yet at the time of Noble Drew Ali. Okay? And the large English translations of Hadith collections were far from being, hold on, turn the page, done. So I believe it might be accurate to say that Drew was very limited in the actual extent which he could learn about Orthodox Islam. Hello. Who has been saying this about the Nation of Islam from day one? Noble Drew Ali. He is the same guy that taught Fard Muhammad, who taught Elijah Muhammad, who spearheaded the Nation of Islam. They didn't even have an English translation of Quran yet. Are y'all hearing me? But Bilal, what does this have to do with grave worshiping? I'm getting to it. Just stay with me, okay? Stay with me. Please stay with me, okay? Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. So what I want you to understand from this book, right? And again, I don't want anybody to get misconstrued this with a history book. It's not a history book, but it's an extremely important book that every Muslim should get. Every Muslim needs to get this book. Engaging Muslim Students in Public Schools by the brother Michael Abraham. Okay? The whole point I wanted to show you, Michael Abraham, he's an academic. He studied this stuff. He went in here and researched this stuff, and he has all the footnotes in it. And he deduced that the reason why he was making these large heretical mistakes in Islam is because he did not have the tools to actually teach himself about real Islam, like, for example, an English copy of the Quran, which all of y'all in 2021 take for granted today. Y'all play too much. So now, let's get into the grave worshiping stuff. What does this have to do with grave worshiping? You know, when we were Christian, we could never, as Christians, okay, we could never imagine worshiping at the grave of people. This is something that we didn't do as Christians. I remember when I was Catholic and my friends would tell me about worshiping of saints and how worshiping St. Jude will help you, find your lost things and whatnot. So I tried it once and that was it. For me, that was it. Like for me, I never felt comfortable doing that, like the worshiping a saints. And this was something that was totally against my own fitrah. You see what I'm saying? Because my fitrah is telling me there's something wrong with this. Like, how are you going to worship the saint? Does not God know where your stuff is? Wouldn't it be my own fitrah before I even knew what Islam was? Islam wasn't even a word in my vocabulary. You understand? But naturally, I had a disdain for that practice. And even if you go online, you'll find scores of Christians calling this practice paganism and heathenism. And this is the main contention with why many Christians consider Catholics heretics. You understand? Because of this stuff. Because they worship Mary and saints and angels and all kind of stuff, right? So, but y'all can't even bring yourselves, okay, to call these Muslims who worship saints mushrikun. You can't do it. Not because of support from the Quran or the Sunnah, because very obviously the Quran and Sunnah doesn't support that, but because of the implications of that type of takfir, and that's it. That's the only thing that is blocking you from doing that. What do you mean by the implications? Takfir, just relax. I'm getting to it, okay? Some of y'all, your Muslim elite, your YouTubian, dawah masters, right? They want to apply the rule of ignorance. Okay? Are you listening now? I'm going to tie this in with Noble Drew Ali, so just pay attention. They want to apply the rule of ignorance on a people who literally have thousands or hundreds of years of Islamic research behind them. Are you catching it now? Are you catching it now? What do you mean, Bilal? Noble Drew Ali, he didn't have access to what y'all had. Y'all had scholars. Y'all had scholarship. Y'all had your rulers and your whatchamacallit, your judges and stuff supporting the scholarship. Are y'all hearing me? Y'all had all of that. But you can't bring yourselves to call those people But they are always essentially mushrikun. Rather, what you say, they're not mushrikun, they're just ignorant, they're jahil. You know, they don't know, they don't know any better. They just don't know any better. But when it comes to Noble Drew Ali, more science temple, Nation of Islam, who don't even have a half a century of any type of Islamic scholarship at all behind them. Y'all remember what shirk is then. You remember what shirk is then. Are y'all hearing me? And rightfully so. Because, of course, Nation of Islam, they're not Muslims. Yes, we agree. And the Moorish Science Temple, you agree. For the most part, they have skipped outside of Islam. For the most part, some of them might be inside of Islam. Some of them might be outside of Islam. But what we're saying is that how do you have this incredible, blatant double standard for your people? Just make it make sense, please. NOI don't got no history of worshiping at graves. They don't got no history of that. More Science Temple ain't got no history of worshiping at graves. The Prophet ﷺ himself cursed the people who worship at graves. He cursed them. But you can't bring yourself to call your people mushrikun because they're your people. But when it comes to the black people who don't have any scholarship behind them, centuries of scholarship behind them, you're quick to kick them out of Islam. Very quick. And it's not that it's a problem from kicking them out of Islam because, yeah, of course. But it's the way, the method that you do it with such incredible harshness and not even any type of husnul done that maybe they are truly the ignorant ones. And the ones who have hundreds of years of scholarship behind them, you call them ignorant. And the ones who don't have them, you don't have that scholarship, you're just out of Islam, kuffar, all this kind of stuff, zindig, all this kind of stuff. All this kind of stuff. You don't see a problem here. You don't see a problem here. The brother Yusuf Rio says all the groups you mentioned birthed the Muslim and Muslim leadership. Exactly. Exactly. This line from Malcolm X to Elijah Muhammad to Noble Drew Ali or whatever, this line produced the the Western Muslim experience that you see today. Are y'all understanding me? How many Muslims came through Islam through the Nation of Islam, including myself? Okay, including myself, including Imam Siraj. Okay, so many. And you want us, the black people of the diaspora, to cut our own people off without question, without trying to bring them to the truth, but have mercy for the people who have hundreds of years of scholarship behind it. Because, hey, let's face it, they ain't black. They ain't black, bro. They just don't know. Are you seriously trying to tell me that Nazim al-Haqqani is an ignoramus? He doesn't know the difference. Nazim al-Haqqani? This is what you're trying to tell me? Like, seriously? Y'all are tripping. You are straight tripping. And when we tell you, let us deal with our people because we understand our people, you guys want to just interject and write articles and books and give khutbahs, and every single type of people group just want to come into our. Anyways, let me continue, man. Let me continue. When it comes to the black people in diaspora who have no Islamic scholarship and are truly ignorant of Islam by every definition of the word, not only can you not find excuses for them, but they come with every single type of epithet and insult, which in turn creates a wedge between us and our very own family members. Something which you would never accept for yourselves. Never in a million years. So we ask you then, what is your criterion of shirk then? What is really your criterion of shirk? If a grave worship can't be considered a mushrik because they say la ilaha illallah, and the non-grave worshiper can be considered a mushrik and he says la ilaha illallah, then what is your criterion of shirk? Other than the blackness of the person's skin. Are you kidding me right now? You have one set of standards for your own people group and a completely different set of standards for a different people group. So when a Shia, when he is worshiping or she is worshiping at her shrine or whatever, that's a mushrik. But when the Sufi in Nizamuddin, India, is not only are they worshiping at a shrine at Nizamuddin, India, but they're worshiping with the Hindus and the Christians and everybody is worshiping together at Nizamuddin, but they're Muslim. That's my problem. You understand me? That is my problem. You understand? When us who converted to Islam, we don't have any dog in your Eastern fights. You understand me? We became Muslim for the sake of Allah, not for you. Let's not get this twisted. We became Muslim to worship Allah, not to follow your culture and not to follow your. That's not what we did, okay? And just because some of us were ignorant and followed your culture because we were following your lead, because we were trusting you, that doesn't negate the fact that we didn't actually become Muslim for that. So we ain't got no dog in that fight. Those of us who became Muslim from the West, we became Muslim because we wanted to worship Allah and go to Jannah. And now what you are seeing is a massive tasfiyah in the West because we are not obliged to follow your Hanafi fiqh, Maliki fiqh, Hanbali fiqh, Shafi'i fiqh. We're not obliged to do that. We're Westerners. We're not obliged to wear a kurta pajama or a thobe or, you know what I'm saying? We don't have to do that. We may do that, yes, and there's not a problem in doing any of that, yes. But don't get it twisted. There are some of us who are looking at y'all like y'all crazy because the incredible double standards that you inflict on the ummah and you don't even know. You don't even know. Did you know that Elijah Muhammad sent Malcolm X to Egypt and Saudi Arabia for him to go learn Islam and teach the people? Did you know that? None of y'all knew that. This is the person that you're saying is aggressive against Islam. Why would somebody who hates Islam so much send his number one top speaker to Egypt and Saudi Arabia to go learn Islam. And even after they fell out, and had that massive fight, and after Malcolm X was assassinated, he sent his own sons to Egypt and Saudi Arabia to learn Islam and bring him back. And after he died, Elijah Muhammad, what did his sons do? Come on, y'all. What did his sons do? Did they maintain the message of Elijah Muhammad, or did they wean the black community into mainstream Islam? Y'all play too much. Y'all play too much. Those people have an excuse of ignorance. No scholar came to them. Who are the scholars? Name one scholar that talked to Elijah Muhammad directly. Name one scholar that talked to Noble Drew Ali directly. But all these scholars, so many of them, okay, like literally hundreds of them, are talking to your grave worshiping relatives directly, including you. But y'all are calling these grave worshipers Muslims? You guys are tripping. You're tripping. Double standards, triple standards, quadruple standards. You know what I'm saying? But no standards when it comes to black people, okay? You should see how some of these other people groups get so upset when you mention Siraj Wahaj. So upset. Why he likes Siraj Wahaj? Don't you know that he talked to Farrakhan and he called him brother? They just shut up. Shut up. I wish a biscuit would. Like, what is wrong with you? Where are these black people going to Pakistan telling you what to do about the Braywalis? Where are these black people going to Pakistan telling you what to do about the Deobandis? We don't do that. Why you think you have the right to come into our communities and tell us how to deal with our business? Jazakallah khair, Sister Tika. Jazakallah khair, Sister Tika. May Allah increase you 1,000-fold. Ameen. Everybody say Ameen. May Allah bless you so much. Ameen. Thank you so much for that super chat, super sticker. Hayakumullah. You guys play way too much, man. And things you shouldn't deal with, you're always there. And the things that you should deal with, you're never there. Go tell your men to defend their women. Don't tell us what to do with our communities. All these women all over Canada getting their hijabs ripped off all over the place. But you want to talk about us? You guys are tripping. You're straight tripping. What kind of, see, Seema says, you can't say brother in an ethnic sense, in a human sense. We are children of Adam. This is ideological. My brother Seema. The ideologically, yes, we are children of Adam. Yes, you're children. Ideologically, yes. Ideologically, yes, we are brothers. Ideologically. But can I come into your house and tell you how to handle the affairs of your own family? Can I do that? Can I go to Pakistan right now or India right now, open up an Islamic center and tell your people how they should be practicing Islam? Can I do that? Based upon American culture, that is. Nobody in the world does this to any other people. The Sudanese don't go to Saudi Arabia and tell the Saudis how they should be practicing Islam based upon Sudanese culture. The Saudis don't go to Pakistan and tell the Pakistanis how they should practice on based upon Saudi culture. The Pakistanis don't go to Indonesia and tell the Indonesians how to practice Islam based upon Pakistani culture. But everybody come to us. I mean, like everybody come to us and dumps their culture on us and tells us that is Islam. And you expect me to say nothing about that? Like I'm supposed to just be chill about that? You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to be chill about that. And not only that, but when we have our own, and we do have our own scholarship here in the West, don't get it twisted. We got a lot of brothers who studied in Medina, in Yemen, in Mauritania, so many, Egypt, you name it. But because of their black faces, they are the first ones to get thrown under the bus. And I already mentioned this many, many times with receipts and names behind it. Sheikh Tahir Wyatt was teaching at the Haram. Teaching at the Haram. You understand me? He was teaching there. Any other people group, if their scholar was teaching at the Haram, they would have them in a high status. But over here in the West, lowlives who have never studied, talking about I've been studying Arabic for 6 years and don't know Arabic, feel they have the right to talk trash about Sheikh Tahir. You understand me? Don't get it twisted. There's the ideological brotherhood and what's really happening on the ground. And the censoring of what's really happening on the ground, it's what's blocking the real brotherhood from taking place. And you're not going to censor Brother Bilal. You're just not going to censor Brother Bilal. This is the voice that you never wanted to hear. Y'all hearing me? Anyways, listen. Black Duet don't talk about Brayolis and Diobandis and stuff, or any deviant group from South Asia. So I don't understand how y'all feel so comfortable talking about these groups in the black community when our history is not your history. Those deviant groups in your country, whatever, I don't know the history behind it, but you have a long history of Islam in your countries. Islam just got here. And instead of helping the people here in the West, you came here to participate in white supremacy. Don't get it twisted. So you feel comfortable while talking about our scholarship, our duat, our salaf. You feel comfortable doing that. Grave worshippers are Muslims. You've got to be tripping. You've got to be straight tripping. Let me get into some of these comments, man. Let's see here. Let's see here. Preach, Akhi. Ain't nobody out here who reverted trying to follow South Asian or Arab culture. We revert for the truth and for the sake of Allah. Exactly. Exactly. And that is the beauty about being in the West. That's the beauty about being in the West, because even you, as a Somalian or as a Pakistani or as an Arab, Egyptian, doesn't make a difference. You get to see, many of you for the first time, how different people are doing it. So now you're put into a situation, am I following my culture or am I following the Sunnah? You understand? And just because some of us get duped into following your culture, that doesn't mean that was our intention. He tried to say we can't defend our women. We were never enslaved to begin with. I don't even know where you're from, so let's see here. To be honest, like I don't consider Arabs, Pakistani, Indians, etc., as Americans or Canadians, etc. Neither do people of the land. Well, let me like I said before, these nation states, the reason why they're set up like this for a reason. You understand? And the demographics that these societies have set up with these foreigners coming in, what the foreigners are looking for from the West are looking for better education, better life, better salaries. This is what they come here for. They're not coming here to make dawah or anything like that. You know what I mean? That's what they're here for. And that's their right. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to wrong them for it. However, there's another like darker side to it, right? Where they actually legit come here to participate in white supremacy. The same system that destroyed their countries, they're coming here and participating in that system and making that system stronger in order for them to get the biscuit. You understand? So they have no problems telling people, oh no, we can't be too Islamic, or we have to be moderate Muslims, or we got to vote for the Democratic or the Liberal Party. Or they have no problems doing that because that's their thing. They want the biscuit. They legit internalize the Western systems as superior to Islam, when really the reason why they do that is because they think or they believe they were practicing a fully Islamic system in their countries, when what they were really doing was practicing a cultural system. And then they essentially said that cultural system is their system, and therefore, they bring that over here. You see what I'm saying? It's just insane. It's insane. They're getting played, and then we tell them they're getting played, and they insist, well, we enjoy getting played. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Honestly, the coonery is at an all-time high. It is at an all-time high internationally. You see what I'm saying? Why should we follow them in our lands? They will never let us rule with them, let alone ISIR them, I said. And I'm not sure what you said to them. They came to gain leadership over the Muslims, who are people of the land who know the situation better than the people of the land. Exactly. They must think all Muslims in the West are naive puppets. Well, you got to understand that's the type of people that they want, right? They want, like, when they all these Western countries, they have quotas for immigrants and refugees and whatnot, and they're looking for certain types of people to come to the West. Do you understand? So, particularly from like the South Asian countries, they want like the educated people from South Asian countries and whatnot to come over here and whatnot, and then they promise them, education. They participate. When they build their, first of all, you got to think about this, okay? When you come here from an Eastern country to the Western country, you want to build your community center, which you call a masjid, okay? You want to do that, and you got to realize that you are building your masajid on stolen land to begin with. But not only that, but you want to, like, you go out your way to build your masajid as much as you possibly can in the suburban, whiter areas. You don't want to go to the hood. You don't want to go to the hood. When if you were serious about spreading Islam, that's the first place you would go. The first place you would go is try to attract the poor, the poor people, the people who have been oppressed, just like every other prophet before you did. Duh. You know what I mean? Those are the first places you would go. But because you want, this type of, assimilation with whiteness, right? You go into these suburban areas and whatnot. You do that. I didn't ask you to do that. I'm a Muslim. You didn't ask me where I wanted these masajid. You see what I'm saying? I pray with y'all too. But y'all do that unilaterally. And then 10, 20 years go by and your kids are running around the cities like chickens with their heads cut off with their girlfriends and whatnot. And you're calling people like me to go to your children to try to bring them back to Islam. I'm just saying. I am just saying. So now some of y'all communities are about to be, footnotes in the West because of the craziness you guys do, man. I already talked about these anti-Islamic Islamophobia summit, and putting you're going on the news every single time somebody pull your wife hijab off on the streets, and when your father gets knocked out, you're screaming and yelling as loud as you can. I already talked about all that stuff. You think I'm doing it just for the sake of doing it? No, I'm telling you the truth. But you're getting mad at me. So do what you want. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be a footnote in history in the West, 2-3 generations down the line, you don't have any Muslims in your family, that's on you. Anyways, I talked long enough, guys. I hope you guys got something out of it. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. As I said before, I do have memberships on my channels now, inshallah. Again, if I offended anybody, that was not my intention to offend anybody. But sometimes the best direction is just direct, right? So take it or leave it. Everything I said is real. Subhanaka wa bihamdik wa shalla anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.